Hello, good evening, everyone. I hope you're super, super well. Welcome to Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday. This week is getting away from me. I have not achieved half the stuff I'm supposed to achieve. I make myself a to-do list every morning, or sometimes the night before I go to bed, and then I sort of have all the tasks that I intend to try and tick off. And there have been a couple of tasks on my to-do list since Tuesday, which I know is only yesterday, but now I also haven't done them today either. That I'm just not dealing with, and it's annoying. I wish I could just do them. But I have written the chapter. In fact, the chapter is long today. I got really into today's chapter and all the stuff. So it's the longest one by far in this book, I think. Yeah, by a long, long way. So that's quite exciting. And then I was like, oh no, it's so, yeah. And again, what keeps happening with this one is the mode of transport hasn't quite made it into the chapter, but one of the repercussions has, and we are on the precipice of one of the other ramifications. And then you've got a weird choice. You've got a weird choice at the end of this. So yeah, why have I got these in? I don't know, JB. Good question. I put them in just because when I'm using my microphone, I tend to have them on so I can listen through the microphone, and then I forget that you guys aren't actually talking to me. Kim forgot to vote. Yeah, it is a microphone, by the way, those asking, which I often use for your chapter, but I often have it just slightly out of sight. But because I was doing some panel thing earlier about social media, I've propped my laptop up a little bit, but it works all right, doesn't it? Ben says, who's the reliable source? I can't name them because they have not given me permission in the message they sent me on Instagram. However, it is somebody connected to Liverpool Football Club. That's all I can give away, who mentioned the book to Senor Klopp this morning. And apparently he said, that sounds hilarious, and has asked for the link to order a copy. So I was like, I'll drive one to Liverpool, dudes, but I don't want to seem too keen. I've already written a book about him. Thanks, Chris, for hello, Mackie. Mackie is in trouble. We are back down to 0 on the days without an accident. And then today, she wolfed down a fox poo like nothing I've ever seen before in my life. I was walking her, and we were coming up the hill, and I turned around and she was going towards this poo, and I was like, Mackie, no. And said no, and then she started like eating it, and I was like, Mackie, no, running towards her, and then she just started gulping it down like it was genuinely rancid. And then I felt so guilty because then obviously she wants to be all sweet and puppy cuddly and licking my face, and I was like, I can't, babe. I think that's it. That's the end of our friendship. I can't have you near my face. I just watched you eat a shit. Oh, sorry, Sarah. I've pushed you over the edge with feeling sick. So Tom had to give her a bath and brushed her teeth as well. Oh God, horrible. Absolutely horrible. Yes, that is what set off my canine centipede tweet. Yeah, I was like, clearly they would have no problem with being in a dogman centipede, just dog, that's human. What's that? Oh, I meant to ask, after your dinner party podcast, it said you'll have another book out in 2021. Will Hamish and Canadian Jesus be written or something new? It will be something new. So Two Roads, the ones that did Klopp Actually, when we signed the Klopp Actually deal, the deal was actually for 2 novels, which is very exciting. So Klopp Actually, obviously now, and then in 2021 or 2022, I will be publishing a full-length novel. I think it's going to be called Pivot. It's quite likely to be about a women's netball team. I have begun writing bits and pieces of it now, but that is quite exciting. I haven't started too much of it, to be honest. Been a bit busy, but yes, perhaps when Marine's Tingion adventure is put to bed, I'll put something in start writing that. Ben, is pivot anything to do with friends? No. Pivot, you have to be a girl that went to school in the Commonwealth to understand pivot. It's one of the Mystic's seen the routine. I do a routine about netball and about how ridiculous it is and how it's the main problem for women being held down by the evil patriarchy. And I've written a TV show about a women's netball team, which the publishers would love to have a novelization of. So watch this space. Could be quite fun. I don't know. I expect to be testing chapters out on you as we go. You are a goal attack. Pivot is so important. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it's the thing. It's mad, though, because as a girl, you don't realize how much men don't know netball or have any connection to it, because you just think, but we all learned it at school. And then you realize that they didn't learn it at school. They knew we were playing it, but they didn't know the rules. And then they've never seen it live or on TV because it just doesn't happen. So yeah, netball, I think it's untapped, and it's also huge at the moment, especially in Australia. Netball is very watched. Sky picked up the rights for it, I think, and New Zealand. They're a very good netball team. Right, yes, you were playing football. I know you learned the sport with all the job opportunities after it. We could have just learned football, but no, we had to learn netball. Are there any job opportunities in netball? No. It's in my knee jerk show, which actually there's no recording of anywhere. But actually, I think it's on my YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and Primary School PE Ruins Your Life, there is a video of that. It's quite an early version of it. I don't think it's the best one, but it's a one. Anyway, we should probably do this chapter while the rain has stopped, because I'm sitting under the Velux window in the roof, and when the rain kicks off, woof, it is loud, and it has been rainy today in Brighton. So let's go. Chapter 23. How are we 23 already? 3 weeks worth of chapters. Right. Her eyes met Briar's, and Maureen felt a tingling across her cheeks as they bent wide into a smile. This is a river? She asked, her eyes drawn irresistibly back to the tumultuous water. It is, confirmed Briar, joining Maureen in gazing out across it. It was enormous. If she squinted, Maureen thought she could see grass on the other side of it, but the darkness of the evening made it hard to make out. Yes. Everything was hazy, and the jumping shininess of the water made it the thing her eyes wanted to focus on most. Can you go in it? She asked shyly, unsure what she wanted the answer to be. You can, Brian nodded, but you don't last long. Safer to go on it. Maureen's head snapped up. On it? Briar laughed. Yeah, in a boat. What's a boat? Maureen asked, but Briar was interrupted from answering by a procession of torches heading their way from the darkness. Maureen tensed and felt Ezria backing up towards her. It's okay, Briar soothed, putting out a hand to show everything was okay. You're safe. Nothing will happen to you here. Maureen peered at the line of Tingions coming from further down the river towards them. There appeared to be a lot, all very tall, like the topsider party they had met beneath ground. Karan, Rashek, and Aleph all gathered in tighter towards Ezria and Maureen as they braced themselves for meeting more strangers. Are they all? Yeah, they're kind of all Southland, aren't they? You're back, called the Tingion at the front of the torched procession. Safe and free, called back Briar, and Maureen watched the tension go out of their shoulders. It's my mother, Briar said, turning their head slightly back round to address the city Tingions. The new group arrived and clustered around. Briar greeted their mother with a hug. The two rangy Tingions stood close together with their heads bowed, deep in intense conversation. Maureen was fascinated by the clothing of the topsiders. These Tingions, who weren't in the raiding party, These Tingions who were in the raiding party weren't dressed in the woven brown combats that the others were. They had feathers and grasses woven into clothes made of all sorts of things Maureen didn't recognize. One Tingion turned around, and Maureen was startled to notice that their trousers crunched and made such a racket. As she peered closer, she recognized the design on the trousers. It was something she had seen once in a museum in the city, some sort of human waste that they often dropped, apparently. It was curious that these Tingions felt no need to hide or camouflage. Everyone beneath ground wore muted browns made from woven, treated roots so that they could hide from animals or, God forbid, human eyes. Briar's mother approached Ezria and smiled warmly. Sinfar, she said, indicating herself, and nodding her head to Ezria. Ezria mirrored her nod and smiled back. Ezria. The two women clasped hands in the Tingion trust greeting, and then Sinfar shuffled back and spread her arms wide in a welcoming position to the small band of city dwellers. Welcome to the topside, Sinfar called, her face the very picture of the matriarchal welcome she professed with her body language. I understand you've had a long journey and a tumultuous amount to deal with. Perhaps we can offer you food and a safe bed for the night. Marine's stomach answered for the group, gurgling loudly. Marine wanted to sink into the floor and die as Briar's eyes caught hers and one eyebrow flicked up into an amused arch. They followed Sinfire's torchlit procession along the pebbly ground with the river to their left. The noise of it was astonishing. Marine couldn't keep her eyes off it. What was making the water move? How did so much of it get into one place? What was keeping it in such a neat line? Why did it jump and bounce? Where was it going? Where did it come from? How would it feel to be inside it? Would it hurt? What was a boat? She barely knew where her feet were leading her as she followed Rashek's footsteps towards Briar's home. Their settlement was the most beautiful thing Marine had ever seen. They had processed down the river until a sandy gully to the right led them up the bank and under a huge hedge. Is this it? Marine asked Briar, looking around in confusion. Look up, Briar said simply, and Marine looked up in astonishment. The hedge above her was alive with activity, Tingions moving up and down branches that had been carefully bent and secured to make platforms and pathways that they could sit, settle, cook, and sleep on. Oh my, Marine couldn't help saying, and Briar's chest swelled at Marine's obvious amazement. We don't stay too long in one place, explained Briar, but we're pretty quick at making a home once we arrive. Briar wasn't kidding. The hedge was incredible. Intricate walkways from thick branch to sturdy trunk, sleeping nests that dotted the edges. Marine could see the faces of children peering down towards her. Food was being moved about by pulleys, and the whole hedge was lit by flames in clear boxes that spun the light out in all directions. It was unbelievable. So far removed from the musty, stale air of the mud caves they lived in beneath ground. Marine knew it was the extra oxygen in the air above ground, but she felt light, giddy, and free. An entire new world was suddenly in existence, one she knew nothing about. It's amazing, isn't it? Mortglade was at Marine's side. Yeah. The word fell out of Marine's mouth through a slack jaw. Why don't we all live like this? It was so exciting and communal, noisy and warm. Why live somewhere where you're less protected? Why live somewhere where there's more chance of having to move? Why live somewhere where it rains? Marine opened her mouth to provide answers to all these questions, but Mortglade raised a hand. I agree, pet, but society wants what it wants. Does it know it could have this? Marine said with wonder, and Mortglade clasped a firm, friendly hand on her shoulder. Of course not, she said sadly. Hungry? Came Briar's voice, and Marine nodded eagerly and followed them in the direction of some incredible smells. By a large contained fire, several topsider Tingions were roasting and boiling and stirring and chopping. Steam and smoke poured around under the branches, filling Marine's nostrils with scents that were new and familiar. Her stomach growled so loudly she was afraid she would attract rats. Sit, said Sinfire, and indicated to the newcomers a clearing with a ring scooped out for Tingions to sit in and have a bowl of food set in front of them at a higher level. Marine thought this was an ingenious idea. She sat feeling giddy and overstimulated as shells of food were passed around to each Tingion sitting in the circle. Eventually, everyone was seated with a shell piled high with steaming food in front of them. They ate hungrily, and Marine watched as Sinfire and Ezria talked fervently and in depth on the other side of the circle. She was sat between Aleph and Briar, but much to her annoyance, Briar was deep in conversation with the Tingion to their right, and Marine couldn't break into the conversation. She began to feel sulky and unsure exactly why, as she did her best to join in with Aleph and Karan. When the food was gone and the shells cleared away, Sinfire stood up to address the party. I welcome you with open arms to our home. I hope you'll treat it with the respect that we would show yours were we to venture into your city, which, by the way, we'll be happy to do if you promise to make your ceilings a little higher." There was a genuine wave of laughter from the collected Tingions. "I have much to discuss with Ezria tomorrow. We've been nervous of Van Weer's behaviour for some time, and this confiscating of a potential lost stone seems to be evidence indeed in support of some of our worst suspicions. Gaining control of the stone is imperative." Marine went cold. She could feel the stone sitting innocently in her pocket. Her eyes flashed unbidden to Ezria's, but Ezria blinked and spoke a paragraph with her eyes. Sinfire continued, "For now, we'll show you a place to sleep safe and dry. In the morning, there'll be work. You have my protection." She bowed, and the little group all raised their half-cups in salute. Marine joined in, feeling numb. One by one, the city Tingions stood up and followed the topsiders to various sleeping areas beneath the hedge. Marine stood, feeling tireder than she had ever felt before. She couldn't really recall properly the last time she had slept. Briar slipped a hand into hers. "I'll walk you," they said, and Marine happily followed. She was surprised, though, when Briar didn't lead her to a sleeping spot, but instead seemed to be heading straight out from under the shelter of the hedge. "Where are we going?" she asked, and Briar winked. "Onto the river," they said, and led Marine towards the racing water. Boom! So there you go. There is your chapter. So this, you have had some of the ramifications. So when you selected night, that meant you were going to get welcomed with a feast to the Topsiders world, rather than having to fight Van Weer's troops in the daytime. However, there are two ramifications that I think will, well, the sailing will definitely happen in the next chapter, and hopefully the other one, I think. I can't see why not. So you have a very simple choice to make for tomorrow. You simply choose 1 Tingion, 2 Tingions, or 3 Tingions. Those are your choices. I'm not giving you any more information than that, and I will see you tomorrow at 10 p.m.